Got a question for you. What if Monday morning was as much worship as Sunday morning? What if you going to work and doing what you're asked to do at work is as much of a worship as you sing on Sunday? Today, in our worship connection, I want to connect you to the idea of work as worship. So let's get it. In today's worship connection, as we think about work as worship, I want you to see first that God was the first one to work. You see, God created the heavens and the earth and all the things in it. This was his work that he participated in. And then as he created humanity, he created them to do work. They were called to cultivate the garden, to guard it, and then to tend the animals and the beasts of the field. You see, worship was the way that they did their work. And so when we recognize that we were created to do work, and that work is actually not the curse that happened as a result of the fall was not that we had to work, it was that we now work, and it's just a lot harder than it was at creation. So first off, we need to see that God worked and he created us to work. So if we know that God created us to work, how should we work? Well, Colossians 3:23 tells us to work heartily as if you're working unto the Lord. You see, work is not something that we should think of it as a separate box, as if the work that we do on Sunday morning at the gathering service is different from the work that we're doing on Monday through Friday. You see, God does not create those boxes, so neither should we. See, we're called to work heartily unto the Lord. And since we're working heartily, that means that when we do our jobs well, we are worshiping God. We are doing it to the Lord as if a fragrant offering as we're working. And so it's important for us to recognize that the work that we do is a means by which we get to worship God through, whether it's you are doing construction work, how are you doing that unto the Lord? If you are working an office job, how are you working heartily unto the Lord? If you are doing a job where you're working with people all day, how do you worship God as you do those things? It means that you work hard because the Lord gave you that work and he wants you to do it well. And that's how you can worship God through your work as well. And then finally, the talents that God gave you to do your work are a means by which you can worship God. You see, God gave you gifts. He gave you talents. He gave you abilities that only you have. And as you think about those things that you can do well, God gave you great opportunity to love the people around you and glorify him through the talents he gave. So if you're talented at putting a hammer to nail, that is a talent that God gave you, and you get to worship him through using your talents to the best of your abilities. And I would argue that you becoming better at the craft that God's given you is a means of worship to him, because he does not want to have you be mediocre in your work. He wants you to worship him through your work. That means taking your talents and making the most of them. So let me ask you this. How can you use Sunday to help you to prepare for Monday? Because Sunday worship doesn't mean that you stop worshiping on Monday. So here, let me give you some tips on how to take your worship into your workday on Monday. First, don't forget God in the midst of your workday. As a matter of fact, you should bring him with you. If you bring God to your Sunday gathering, you should bring him to the spaces of life that you have on Monday. So if you're got an office job, take time to pray before you go into work. Ask God, how can I glorify you in my work? If you are outside doing construction jobs, maybe you have some space to look around nature and thank him as you're doing the work that God's called you to do. Maybe God's brought you into that workspace where there needs to be people that hear about Jesus. And the first way they're going to hear about Jesus is not with their ears, it's going to be with their eyes. They're going to see how you work, see how you manage your time well. And as a matter of fact, I would often argue that the best evangelism in the workplace is you doing your job well. Your boss will see that and they will honor you. And by virtue of that, you can honor God through that. You're going to be able to show your coworkers what it means to love. And ultimately, the job that we hope that we do, whether it's the office job, the construction job, the hospitality jobs that we have, we want to take those and bring glory and honor to God and reach the world in the best way possible. So, as you prepare for the Monday morning blues, why don't you turn it into some Monday morning worship? Look forward to seeing you at the next Worship Connection. My name's Brolin. Thank you for joining me today.